Hello and welcome. Today on the third lecture of this week, we are discussing on the climate action, particularly SDG goal number 13 that deals with climate action. In the previous two lectures, we discussed about the basics of all those 17 sustainable development goals, and we also discussed about the first indicator of climate action, that is SDG number 13. In terms of 13.1, we discussed that how this indicator means request or desires in terms of bringing out the climate resilient infrastructure as far as disaster management is concerned. Today, moving on, we will discuss about the next indicator, that is numbered as 13.2 as far as the SDG target is concerned, and also we will discuss about the UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, in terms of climate reporting and what are the available transparency framework. And then we will move on to discuss about the total greenhouse gas emission as far as different sectors are concerned. And we will focus also on few of these climate policies available at international levels, and also in detail we will discuss about as far as the Indian national and state policies. Various states are there within the country. So, the various state policies and our national policies we will discuss in terms of national and state action plans. Towards the end of this lecture, we will talk about the climate laws and governance. So, this target number 13.2, it talks about integration of climate change measures into national policies, strategies and planning. So, what are the international climate policies and national climate level policies are? So, on the left hand side of this box, we can see that lot of international climate policies are being complied under different frameworks. One is United Nations framework on Convention on Climate Change. The other one is the important COP, which is better known as Paris Agreement, Conference Parties 21, happened in 2015 in Paris, and NDCs, the nationally determined contributions, the global stock take, all these COPs COPs and many other conventions, we take a global stock. So, we call it stock taking. And then long term low emissions, we also have policies for that, and we say it long term low emission development strategies, LTLEDs to have an abbreviation. National climate policies. So, under this we will discuss about the the carbon neutrality targets, national adaptation plans NAPs, national and state action plans on climate change NAPCC or SAPCC, climate change acts or legislations. So, SDG 13.2 incorporated into all levels of government decision making that include national development plans such as NAP, or you say national action plans, or national action plan on climate change. So, we will discuss all these two in different taking the different examples. Then we will talk about state and district policies in terms of SAPCCs. So, state action plan on climate change. We will discuss about urban and rural planning, and also the sectoral policies in various sectors such as agriculture, forest, water, energy and transport. So, moving on, let us see how the UNFCCC climate reporting does a kind of transparent job. And what are the frameworks under that. So, let us look at these 3-4 terms. One is GHGI, greenhouse gas inventory, So, this greenhouse gas inventory it track the national greenhouse gas emissions. In terms of NCs, that means national communications, the national communications report climate policies and impacts. BR, the biennial reports, they show mitigation progress of developed countries. Biennial update reports in terms of BURs, the BURs they report emissions and action of developing countries. Whereas we have also the biennial transparency reports called abbreviated as BTRs, they improve the transparency under the Paris Agreement. So, let us see in terms of the NC and BRs on this side of the left hand side for the developed countries, and on the other side of BTRs we have the biennial update reports in terms of BURs and the national communications NCs for the developing countries. All this provide in terms of a transparency framework, they provide the national inventory report. These are targeted, these complies to various targets and also the various progresses made at national level. Policies and measures or mitigation actions or programs that contain the mitigation measures. These also come under the UNFCCC climate reporting and transparency framework, and coming to the projections, and this also as far as the developed countries is concerned, they also provide lot of projections for their own country or for rest of the neighboring or rest of the world. And coming to the financial support provided or mobilized, the most of the developed nations they also give this or mention this in terms of what are the financial support being provided or being mobilized. In terms of similar way for the developing countries, it is how much support is needed and received in terms of constraints and what are the constraints and gaps in receiving the financial support. So, is also reported in a transparent way. Now, coming to NCs, vulnerability, climate change impacts and adaptation measures. On the right hand side, as far as the national communication is concerned, programs containing measures to facilitate adaptation to climate change. As far as the national communication is concerned, the RSOs and education, training and public awareness is also given by the national communications from the developed countries, whereas the developing countries in terms of their national communications, they also provide RSOs, education, training and public awareness, information and networking. So, all this in terms of the biannual transparency reports BTRs, they touch upon or they give information as far as the RED situation or the technical technicalities that are in terms of the development. So, RED all of us know reduced emission in terms of deforestation and degradation, or we say deforestation and forest degradation. So, that way the UNFCCC in terms of climate reporting does a very good transparent work. So, coming to this, the number of countries with NDCs, national determined contributions, and long term strategies and national action plans and adaptation communications as reported to the UNFCCC Secretariat. Now, let us have a look at the sector wise greenhouse emission over past few decades. Look at this figure that talks about the global greenhouse emissions by sector with respect to the unit that is represented in terms of gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent, because we know all other greenhouse gases are equated with respect to their global warming potential in comparison to carbon dioxide. The Next point is measures annual greenhouse gas emissions of countries, tracks sector wise emission trends, monitors progress in emission reduction, supports Paris Agreement reporting and global climate mitigation. So, in this way, if we see that the various sectors which are contributing lot. So, over last 3 decades between 1990 to 2019, the energy sector in terms of the carbon dioxide equivalent emission has gone from 31% to 34%. So, it was during 2010 it was 35%, but suddenly in 2019 it became 34%. So, it is good in terms of 10 to 20, it is a minor decline in terms of the contribution of greenhouse gas emission from energy sector. Coming to industry, 21% down to 20% by 2000, and then 24% and stabilized at 24% as far as industry sector emission is concerned. From FLU sector, it has moved from 27 to 22%. It is a good reduction, but whereas as far as the transportation is concerned, it is steadily increasing 13 to 15 to 14 to 15. So, net it has increased from 13 to 15%, whereas the building sector it is decreasing or has decreased between 1990 to 2019 from 8 to 6%. So, this is the sector wise. So, what we try to understand this progress. So, this monitoring of this progress in terms of emission trend and emission reduction is in line of the reporting as far as the Paris Agreement is concerned towards, and it in that line of it gives information towards global climate mitigation. Now, let us talk about the climate policies. So, here we have put 5 things. One is the global stocktake, the NDC nationally determined contributions, the long term low emission development strategies or LTLEDs, Paris Agreement and UNFCCC. All these 5 things I have spelled out before. So, in terms of global stocktake, 5 yearly assessment of collective global progress, reviews mitigations, adaptation and finance gaps or financial gaps, helps countries strengthen future policies and improves planning and accountability. In terms of NDC nationally determined contributions, country specific mitigation and adaptation targets, integrate national plans and budgets, updated every 5 years with higher ambition. So, this is as far as the national determined contributions is concerned. Let us look at the next one as far as the long term low emission development strategy or LTLEDs are concerned. So, long term means how much long term in terms of we have set of target that we will achieve net zero as early as possible, but the target is mentioned at 2050. So, keeping that in mind, the long term, that means till 2050 the decarbonization pathways have been framed, and as far as possible this needs to be followed and needs to be achieved. And in terms of the LTLEDs, allies energy, industry and land use planning with net zero goals. They guide these LTLEDs, they guide sustainable economic transitions, support long term climate integration, and also we discussed this previously also in terms of the Paris agreements. The Paris agreements are legally binding to global climate agreement. So, whoever are the signatory to this UN 193, 194 countries, it is legally binding to them. So, we all have pleaded to limit the rise in temperature below 2 degrees centigrade in comparison to the pre-industrial era, and must try to retain it or hold it up to 1.5 degrees centigrade, which looks to be difficult at the current scenario. Coming to United Nations Framework on Climate Change, it is an international treaty. It coordinates global climate action. it provides, or under this there is a provision for reporting and policy guidance, and also this makes foundations for national climate planning. Now, going next, what is happening as far as our own country, that is India, is concerned. So, in terms of the national climate policies, we have the NAP, National Adaptation Plan. It is not yet implemented in India. Identify climate risks and integrate adaptation to national policies and planning. India's carbon neutrality in terms of net zero target. So, we all know that in the Glasgow COP, our PM Mr. Modi has attended that and committed that India will achieve net zero by 2070. So, this makes now the major policy plan as far as the National Adaptation Plan or NAP is concerned. So, to comply to this target, part of India's climate commitment under UNFCCC also have been uttered. The expansion of renewable energy. So, this also is one of the measures that leads towards compliance of net zero emission target in terms of solar, wind and hydropower. Launch of the National Green Hydrogen Mission. Also promotion of energy efficiency and clean technology, all these contribute towards that, and they all support the climate action or global climate action under the Paris Agreement and Sustainable Development Goals. The participation in global initiatives like the International Solar Alliance and Mission Innovations, all these fall under the India's carbon neutrality or net zero target framework. Now, in that COP in Glasgow, our PM has committed to achieve net zero by 2070, and that he put forth in terms of 5 sentences or 5 frameworks, which is called Panch Amrut. So, 5 lines. So, in that sense, the first one is 500 gigawatts of non-fossil energy capacity to be achieved by end of this decade, that is 2030. 50% of the current energy will be met from renewable sources by end of this decade, that is 2030. Reduction in terms of carbon intensity by or up to 45% by end of these decades, and reduction in terms of 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide emission by 2030. So, these 4 have been committed to be achieved by end of this decade, that is 2030. And the last one was, if we do this, we are in the pathway in terms of achieving net zero emission by 2070. Now, moving on, we have in terms of the National Plan on Climate Change or NPCC, there are 8 missions to address the climate change concerns and promote the sustainable development. So, in terms of that, we have the 8 core missions. You can see what the NAPAC is. So, this particular NAPAC or Indian National Plan on Climate Change was launched in June 2008. This NAPAC aims to combat climate change while ensuring sustainable development. So, NAPAC is India's strategy for climate resilient and inclusive growth based on common but differentiated responsibility. In terms of the 8 core missions as concerned towards achieving this, which have been framed under NAPCC, the first one is the National Solar Mission, second is National Mission on Enhanced Efficiency of Energy, so you said NMEEE, and then you have National Mission on Sustainable Agriculture, you have National Water Mission, National Mission for a Green India or GIM, Green India Mission, you have the National Mission on Sustainable Habitat. So, further to this, we have various state action plans that aligned with the National Action Plan to cater to the regional needs. So, in terms of achievements and way forwards, significant progress in terms of solar energy capacity have been realized. Launch of platforms, archives and trade in terms of PAT for energy efficiency, expansion and afforestation programs, EV policy integration and FAME schemes. So, NAPAC serves as a dynamic framework for India to meet global climate commitments and foster the green growth. In detail on this, in terms of the National Solar Mission, we have the large scale solar parks being installed. Rooftop solar deployment is going on at a large scale and at an individual scale also. Grid integration of renewable of the energy which is generated because of the renewable sources, particularly solar and wind and many other things, but here we are talking about the solar mission now. And the fourth one is solar subsidies and policy incentives. Going to the next one, that is the National Water Mission. We need to work how to increase the water use efficiency. So, water needs to be utilized in the most efficient manner. We need to harvest the rainwater. We should not let it go like that. We should harvest it and utilize it or conserve it for our purposes in terms of day-to-day activities. Watershed management, we must follow watershed management approach to store, conserve water, and also the river basin level conservation planning also falls under the National Water Mission. Moving on to the third one as far as the mission is concerned, that is the National Mission on Sustainable Habitat. Energy efficiency buildings, public transport systems, waste management and urban climate planning. These all fall under the National Mission on Sustainable Habitat. Coming to the fourth one is very important because this talks about greening the India. So, National Mission for a Green India. So, afforestation and reforestation in wastelands, barren lands and whatever government lands which is lying free or without vegetation. The forest restoration, the areas which have gone under deforestation or degradation has to be has to be restored. And then community forest, at community level we should encourage to go for forestry in terms of joint forest management or many other ways, so that the benefit directly goes to the community. And the fourth and important one is the carbon stock enhancement. Through all this afforestation, reforestation, forest restoration and community forest activities, we are enhancing the carbon stock, because the plants, they do photosynthesis, and this process they withdraw the atmospheric carbon dioxide, and that carbon is converted to a chemical energy and contributes towards building block of the plants and other organisms. So, in terms of this, we say that National Mission for Green India contributes towards the carbon stock enhancement. Moving on to the next four. The fifth one is National Mission on Sustainable Himalayan Ecosystems. This talks about monitoring our melting glaciers. We have Himalaya. So, because of the height, we have lot of deposition in terms of snow and glaciers. So, the glaciers are melting. So, monitoring of this glacier is an important mission under the NMHS. So, National Mission on Sustainable Himalayan Ecosystem, we say it NMCSHE. And also the biodiversity to be conserved in this in the Himalayan ecosystem, because it offers lot of microclimate. We have lot of endangered, threatened and rare fauna. So, these all we put it under the IUCN categories. Coming to the third one is landslide or flood risk mapping. So, as far as the Himalayan terrain is concerned, landslide is becoming a rule, a very frequent occurrence, because we are doing lot of developments in the Himalayan mountain or Himalayan terrain. Simply by cutting the ridges or mountains, we are carving out the roads in terms of connectivity and many other development activities. So, that leads to landslides, and also because of erosion and many other problems, we have these days lot of flood risks. So, that also being mapped in terms of the risk. The flood risk is mapped under the NMC mission. And the fourth one is in terms of the sustainable tourism practices. So, the tourism is an important source of livelihood and also refreshment as far as the tourist is concerned. So, this is also fall under the NMC mission. Moving on to the sixth one, we have the National Mission on Strategic Knowledge for Climate Change. So, for this we need to have all this as far as afforestation, reforestation, forest community and all this is concerned. Coming to the seventh one is the National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture. So, climate smart agriculture, drought flood resistant crops, efficient irrigation in terms of drip and sprinklers, and soil health management. So, these all fall under the sustainable agriculture because we need to do climate smart agriculture. That means the cropping pattern has to corroborate with the changing climate. We need to come out with the seeds or the varieties, crop varieties that should demand less water or that should use water optimally. So, these are the ways we put under we develop this under the climate smart agriculture, and also the drought and flood resistant crops. These days because of extreme weather events, we are receiving more of droughts and flood kind of situations. So, we should come out with the crop varieties that are resistant to drought and flood. Efficient irrigation in terms of drip or sprinkler, so that we do not allow lot of our upper or top soil to erode, and soil health management. The last or the eighth one is National Mission for Enhanced Energy Efficiency, or you say NMEEE. Under this mission, it is targeted to perform, achieve and trade PAT scheme, energy efficient appliances such as which are really efficient appliances, and industry efficiency standards and market based mechanisms. These fall under the National Mission for Enhanced Energy Emissions. So, all these 8 they contributed, they fall under the National Action Plan on Climate Change, that is NAPCC. Now, moving on to the state action plans. The state action plans, what is their motto? They translate the national action plan in terms of climate change, or you say India's NAPCC, into specific goals based on states' unique geography. So, different states have different geography and they all sit or fall under different biogeography or agroclimatic regions. So, more suitable, so whatever more suitable with respect to their climatic needs, they should go for those kind of actions. So, in terms of this institutional framework, a state environment department leads and a steering committee headed by the chief secretary reviews and approves the plans. Coming to vulnerability mapping, states identify high risk districts and sectors such as agriculture, water and health to prioritize resource allocation. Third is mainstreaming, climate proofing existing schemes such as Mahatma Gandhi Narega. They act funds or they divert some funds to build ponds and roads. So, this is in terms of fund management or optimization through other schemes. And coming to budgeting, funding is pulled from the state budgets and National Action Fund in terms of climate change, also the international grants. In terms of monitoring, states track progress through specific periodic reports. Coming to the climate change acts or legislations, as far as India is concerned, we have 3 in terms of primary legislative pillars: judicial and constitutional support. Third is implementation framework. So, in terms of primary legislative pillars, we have the Energy Conservation Amendment Act passed in 2022. It it promotes non-fossil energy use and support the Indian carbon market IMC. Also, we have the EPA, which is the umbrella act as far as the environment is concerned, coming in from since 1986, that also falls under this. We also have this all regulate emissions, hazards and waste and protect sensitive ecosystems, and also we have the Biodiversity Amendment Act just 3 years before, that is in 2023, and also protecting carbon sinks and promote the sustainable use of biodiversity. So, the second, as I mentioned, in terms of the judicial and constitutional support, we have fundamental rights, recognized the rights against climate change impacts under Article 21, that is we have right to life. We have also NGT, National Green Tribunal 2010, and that provides a fast track legal forum for environmental and climate cases. The third one is implementation framework, National Action Plan on Climate Change, as we just discussed in terms of NAPAC. We also discussed in terms of the state action plans, SAPCCs. So, states they integrate climate goals into sectoral plans and budgets. So, to discuss this, we have taken help of this literature, and what we discussed at this, I will repeat. In terms of SDG 13.2, they focus this indicator, it focuses on integrating climate mitigation and adaptation into national policies and planning. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change along with the Paris Agreement, they guide global cooperation, reporting and accountability. Countries submit NDCs, long term strategies and undergo global stock taking to strengthen the commitments. So, India implements actions through various fora as far as the national fora, NAPAC is concerned, state level, SAPCCs are concerned, and also sectoral missions. We discuss about 8 different important missions which complies to this target. And we also have laws to regulate in terms of the emissions and also guide mitigation, adaptation and sustainable development action in this climate action section. Thank you very much.